Thanks for checking into the State of Basketball Podcast, Episode 4. I'm Adam Miller, and I'm here with Jaron Wilt each and every week, where we're going to be bringing you the news and notes on all 11 Division I schools in the state of Indiana, because 49 states.
It's just basketball.
Great week, Jaron. Feast week.
Feast week. It's one of my favorite weeks of the season, really. There's always several MTEs, which for those of you who don't know is multiple team event. And which are really just fun ways. Maui, Battle of Atlantis, ESPN Events Invitational.
It's like the everybody gets a trophy version, because you can't say tournament, but it's like, because not all of them are tournaments. Like, we just invited these 4 schools to our school, and we're just going to play a round robin. Then multiple teams, and it's an event, you know.
But it's also a good way for a lot of teams to get really high level competition against non-conference opponents before conference play starts.
Yes. And I think another big part of it is like playing so many games in a few days, like 3 games in 3 days or 3 games in 4 days is like huge.
It's a good way for teams to get conditioned
for the tournament,
to be ready for March and February when conference tournaments kick off, and really just get that early in the season conditioning of, okay, this is how we're playing when we've got 3 back-to-back games. How do we adjust the rest of the season to make sure that we're prepared for this come conference tournament?
Yeah, I like it a lot too, because you get to see a lot of different people step up on day 2 who may have been absent on day 1, or coaches got to do fun stuff with their lineups. It's a lot of fun. Absolutely.
Well, in honor of that, I've got a couple free throws for you.
Okay.
So we talked about tournaments. And how many college players from the state of Indiana played the 2023 NCAA tournament? Have a guess?
So, like, how many Indiana natives played on a team that was in the NCAA tournament?
Yep.
I'm going to ask a question that's not going to change my answer at all, because I don't know if there's anyone on any of these rosters, but to play in games count, like to the round of like the 68 of 64, the first 4. This could be like, I guarantee there's not a single person on one of those rosters. So I'm just going to ignore. I'm going to say 43.
Ooh, 34.
Really?
Yep. All right, I got another one for you.
Okay.
Can you name there? So there were 2 non-Indiana schools that had 2 players from the state of Indiana. Can you name one of those schools?
2 schools not in Indiana that had more than one Indiana native on them.
So like obviously excluding Purdue and Indiana, who had several. Okay.
I'm trying to think of if they were like a good team or not, It's probably, I want to say it's probably like going to be like a bordering state or team. We go, I don't even have a guess. I'm trying to think of like who is even in the tournament. I'm going to say Wisconsin.
Oh, actually, so Xavier, they had 2. So Bob Nungy, who was the younger brother of Jack Nungy, didn't know Bob even existed.
Didn't know there was a Bob Nungy.
Neither did I. And then
who was the other guy?
Vermont had.
Okay, I was never getting Vermont.
Me neither. I was surprised by it, but Robin Duncan and Dylan Penn are the 2 that played for Vermont.
I was just thinking, like, who did we have at Wisconsin? Connor Essegian. Did they even make the tournament last year?
They did not. So
just a terrible guess.
Yeah.
Didn't even out of the 68 teams, I guessed one who wasn't even in the field.
Yep.
Incredible.
A couple guys of note. Brooks Barnheiser, Northwestern.
Yeah.
Trey Coleman went to Nevada. John L. Davis, Florida Atlantic. Owen Deese, who Texas A&M Corpus Christi. Robin Duncan and Dylan Penn from Vermont. Walter Ellis from Grand Canyon. Armand Franklin, one of our guys that from Indiana, but played at Indiana for several years, and then transferred to Virginia. DeAndre Golston, Missouri. Luke Goody, Jonah Lucas, at Nigel Pack. See a big name that we know. Tony Perkins at Iowa. Dylan Ritter from Charleston.
I always forget that Tony Perkins, he's from Indy, right? Or
I don't actually remember, but I wouldn't be surprised. And then Nick Sabande at Pitt, EJ Wilkins at Drake. And I'm not even going to go through the list of
just basically half of Purdue and half of IU's rosters.
Yep, exactly. So that was a fun little thing. I came across that nugget I was curious to see. I wanted to see a current list of players who are playing Division I basketball that are native to the state of Indiana.
Right.
Couldn't find a list out there. I might have to make one. I think that'd be a fun little side activity that I might never get around to. But I just thought it was applicable to the show. So I thought I'd bring it up.
All right, now it's your turn to step up to the line.
Okay.
Just coming up with one right now. Tony Perkins played on the same team as someone else on this list in high school. I gave you a hint as to where I thought he is from. He played on the team as someone else.
Armand?
Nope. He played with CJ Gunn at Lawrence North.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So he was a couple years older, obviously.
Yeah.
But
I assumed it was an Indy guy, and I know that Armand's from the Indy area, so I was kind of just felt like a safe guess.
I don't even remember where he went. Did he go to a Catholic school?
Armand? Stay here. 30 seconds.
No. I just remember following him and Trace and Keon Brooks when they were all playing for the Indy Heat and stuff, and following their recruitments and whatnot.
Armand is ESPN. His NBA profile does not show where.
Well, I'm sorry, Armand. If you had stayed in the state of Indiana, we would have spent the time to look this up.
Cathedral. Cathedral. That
was right.
That makes sense.
Like I was there without getting there. I was like towing the line.
Yeah. Absolutely.
All right. Well, since I bricked both my free throws there, let's move into the power rankings.
Absolutely.
We had a little bit of movement. We had someone drop down quite a bit, but let's get into it. So our power rankings, again, we're doing 1 through 11. Number 1 should be obvious. Number 1 in the state of Indiana, again, is
Purdue.
Boilermakers stay number 1 in the state of Indiana. If you're going to be number 1 in the country, how are you not going to be number 1 in the state?
Yep.
2, after an incredible week, is Indiana State. They moved up from 3. And then we have another riser, Evansville, another incredible week, an incredible win. IU moved up from 5 up to 4. So Indiana's now at 4th. And then Purdue Fort Wayne dropped to 5, but I think it's closer than that. I felt like I was punishing them by moving them to 5, but when I just compared the resumes,
Yeah, and I think that's the big thing at this point is those resumes.
Yeah, like looking who's your best win and stuff.
Yeah.
Butler moved up to 6. Notre Dame moved down to 7, so a little flip-flop. Ball State stayed at 8. Valpo staying at 9. Southern Indiana staying at 10. And IUPUI staying at 11. So not a lot of movement in that back chunk there, but there's 1 through 11. Purdue, how long are you going to stay on top? I guess the only option for them to move is when they play IU.
Yeah.
But even then, I don't necessarily think that's...
Unless they drop a couple games that they shouldn't drop, or games are closer than they should be. And Indiana State, based on our current standings, Indiana State can bump ahead. But I think right now it's that number 1 spot in our power rankings is pretty...
They might run the table because even
they might run the table.
I mean, if their first 2 losses are to Indiana twice, and Indiana has taken multiple losses, then
you still can't. Yeah.
Which is like when you win head to head, but you're still not above them. It's so weird.
Yeah,
but it's one of those things that doesn't make sense, but does make complete sense.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I'm with you for sure.
All right, Jaron, let's get into your alma mater. Jump into the Cardinals.
State went 2-0 this week. They picked up wins against USC Upstate and Arkansas Pine Bluff, and those are some pretty fun games to watch. I thought a guy that really showed up for me in both games. Stat lines weren't necessarily reflective of this, but Ben Hendricks, he got his first start of the season against USC Upstate. It was his 3rd career start.
Good for him.
Yeah. He took the starting spot over Mason Jones. I think a lot of that was strategic from a size perspective. Hendricks is a little bigger, and Mason Jones just gave that kind of a spark off the bench.
Yeah,
I think. But Hendricks started the game against Upstate really strong. right? So it's obviously it was his first start of the season, third start ever. He was making plays on both ends of the court. He had in 10 minutes of the first half, the 10 minutes he played in the first half, mind you, this was broken up by a couple short stints on the bench. He was 3 for 3 from the field. He had 5 boards and 4 blocks. The dude just was incredible.
You're like, this dude's going for 1,000, you know?
Absolutely. But that's about all he did in that game. So he had 6 points. I want to note his career high is 8 points. He got that on January 19th season, which was his sophomore season. So really, you know, I was excited. I think I was texting you during the game, like, this is the guy.
You're like, it's him.
Homie's gonna do something. And then I think as soon as I sent that text, he stopped doing anything.
Yeah, I like looked at his stat line. I couldn't tune in yet, and I was like, I remember I like looked, and then I was like, well, actually, this person is doing this, and you were like, oh,
yeah. No, it was unfortunate to see. I thought I was onto something, but he did, and I want to talk about it a little bit. We'll talk about the Arkansas Pine Bluff game, but he did turn it around, not turn it around, but he did turn it on again against them.
Yeah, for longer.
Yeah, absolutely. But was not surprised. Defense looked great in the first half. Cardinals.
I think it should. I mean, I hope that Evansville loss was like an anomaly for them.
Well, and it was a good way for them. They're playing back at home. It was good. Evansville was their first road game of the season.
Yeah.
It was obviously their first loss of the season.
A lot of new pieces.
But Mike Lewis just doesn't really lose at home, which is great. And he in the post game kind of sideline interview, he even said, he's like, yeah, it's great that we don't lose at home,
but we got to win on the road.
Yeah. We got to kind of transition that to winning on the road. So I think that Evansville loss, it was good to get it out of the way. And I really think they're going to be able to turn it around.
And I think, you know, we talked about how like close this team feels even early on. And like, you know, we talk about when you lose a game, how close your team is and like how well you guys get along is really what's going to carry you. And you can see that because they ended up winning this game. And another person who, again, kind of like the Evansville game to the next game, had a bounce back was Mickey Pearson. He had 0 against Evansville.
Yeah,
nothing.
He's a guy that he needs to score.
Yeah,
he's that team's leader.
He's got to be doing something.
Yeah.
He can't disappear. And so him having 0, and then he goes for 24 and 6 against USC Upstate. Like, that's what he needs. Maybe he doesn't necessarily need to drop 20 plus points, but he needs to be bringing it and providing the team with something.
He needs to have, he can't have zeros in every column.
Right.
Kind of thing. If he's not scoring, great. We'll kick up the assist, pick up some rebounds, things like that. So it's good that he kind of got that out of the way too.
Yeah,
against Evansville. But a fun little nugget that I found out while watching the USC up. So Mike Lewis is notorious he's probably one of the best dress coaches in college basketball. He's a traditional suit and tie, every game guy.
New power rankings incoming?
Maybe
soon.
Don't tempt me with a good time. But he puts a card in every one of his suit jackets. I assume it's like a note card, something of that nature.
Prints a new business card.
But he puts it in his like inside pocket on his jacket with the record that he has while wearing that suit. And before he puts on a suit, before every game, he pulls that card out, looks at that record, and that kind of helps him decide if he's going to wear that suit that game. So if they need a big win, he might not be wearing a suit that he's got a couple losses on. He's going to go for his tried and true. But I thought that was really interesting that's kind of how he decides what suit wears each.
You know what we should do is we should go get a press pass and go to the post-game interview and ask him what his record is in that suit and what, like, if he would not wear a suit again if he was like 0-2 in it. You're like, hey,
at
if
what
you're
point
0-2,
do you not wear a suit?
Do you just like donate it, or like you sell it to somebody, or do you just like, I can't wear this one to the game ever again? Like, there's a big like a garment bag with like a big do not wear, like just for formal occasions only,
for completely off limits for games. Yeah. I think that'd be a great question to ask. Another thing that going into the USC Upstate game, I did not realize this, but we've talked about Ball State's defense a lot. That's their kind of at the core
It's
of
their
what
bread
they
and
do.
butter.
Yeah. They going into that game were ranked 25th in the country at defending the three.
Good for them.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And they didn't even play IU while doing it. So it's like
Exactly. They don't have a lopsided misbalance because of teams they can't shoot threes. But that was something that was very interesting to me. Jihad talked about it a lot. It's going to be a long season for them if he foul trouble. He got into foul trouble against Upstate, and
he had a better of a game, right? He had like 18 in the second game. I don't think he was in foul trouble in the second game, the Pine Bluff game, which is like, yeah, he had 2 fouls, which is nice. And he played 36 minutes. So like the contrast from game to game for him hopefully is continuing to, trend upwards.
And he's a guy that's been in foul trouble in almost all of their games. Yeah. It's actually, and you're right, he was not in foul trouble against Arkansas Pine Bluff. And that's actually a note that I wrote was they're going to have a long season if he can't stay out of foul trouble for Upstate. Based on kind of just my observations there against Arkansas Pine Bluff, I wrote, this team's going to be dangerous if he does stay out of foul trouble, because that game, the Arkansas game, was a example of that. He balled out. The team dominated pretty much the entire game.
Another guy I want to talk about with Ball State is Jalen Anderson.
Yep. Did not play a lot in the Upstate game. He got in foul trouble.
He got in foul trouble, and he's had 29 in the game already. He's had 20, and then he goes for 4 and had foul trouble, and then he had 10 in this game. So, the game against Upstate, he's got to be on the floor.
Yeah.
And
he's their leader. He runs their offense.
He's the dude that's got to be there to get you a bucket when you need a bucket.
Yeah.
I think in the same way that if Jihad is not playing, like being on the floor with foul trouble, if he's able to stay out of foul trouble, if Anderson's able to find a way to score in a game, I think that this team's going to be really, really scary. But that all depends on what he does. I feel like he can go hot or cold.
Yep.
And that's kind of going to decide what the team's going to do from a scoring perspective, because you've had guys like Mickey Pearson go for 0 as well.
Yeah.
And, the bench isn't as deep as you would like it to be, especially at that, guard spot.
Yeah, definitely. So I mentioned Ben Hendricks. He started real strong against Upstate. The Arkansas Pine Bluff game, he got the start again. Mm-hmm. So this week alone, he doubled his career starts. He's played 5 seasons.
Okay.
He had 2 career starts going into last week.
And he
picked up his third against USC Upstate, his 4th against Arkansas Pine Bluff. He also hit his career high. He had 10 points, I believe, against Arkansas Pine Bluff, and that was. I knew I was onto something this week with Ben Hendricks. I just was a game. I was a game early. Yeah. I was a game early.
The interesting thing is about that game is he only played 18 minutes. But he had 10 points.
Yep.
And all 5 starters were in double digits, and he had the lowest of the starters. So he had 10, and the next lowest was Jalen Anderson with 15. So that's pretty good.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
When I was looking at this box score afterwards, I was like, okay, hang on a second. They won by 18.
Yep.
Why did Jihad place 36 minutes? Why did Mickey Pearson play 35? Why did Jalen Anderson play 28? So if you're looking at this box score, you're probably wondering, why did they play so much when they won by 18? Well, this was a 6-point game with 8 minutes left. It was still a 10-point game with about 5 minutes left. So Ball State really just pulled away in the end.
Yeah.
And I mean, good on those starters for being able to get that. And, that finishing squad was able to get it done. But I think they were down 6 at half, and the whole first half was back and forth.
Right. Yeah.
So
it was
it's one of those where the box score does not tell the full picture.
Yeah.
You just look at that and you're like, okay, why did he run his starters when they won by 18?
The math's not mathing.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I'm with you. I think that's a good thing to point out.
Yeah. So looking at a game where they win by 18 and their starters play so much. You're like, what are you doing, Lewis? And it's like, no, they kind of had to. It was like the last 4 minutes where they got it moving.
Absolutely. Well, want to talk about Butler?
I do. They played in an MTE.
Yep. The ESPN Events Invitational,
which is in Walt Disney World at the worldwide.
Technically, I think it's called the State Farm Center along those lines. But yes, it is at the ESPN complex at
where they
Disney
had
World
they had the bubble.
Yep. Exactly where they had the bubble.
Yeah. So, I mean, who won this thing? Because we need to start calling. Are these Mickey Mouse wins for Butler? I'm not saying it. People are, though. No, I'm just kidding. Butler, you did really great this week because even though you went 2-1, your one loss was to FAU. Now,
we played in the Final Four last year.
Yes, and I think we talked about FAU last week because they had already taken or maybe that was the beginning of this week where they took a weird loss to Bryant. They just lost.
It was last week.
They just took this really weird 10-point loss to Bryant, and everyone was like, "Fade FAU, they're trash."
Yeah,
and then they go out and Butler's competitive with them the whole time.
Yeah, I wasn't prep. The scoreline, obviously Butler lost.
Yeah,
but I was really impressed by how they played the entire game.
Yeah. So the thing was that it was really close, but to beat FAU, they have to be absolutely atrocious. They have something has to be terribly wrong with them because they don't normally make mistakes. They're a really old team who plays really good team basketball. And so after the Bryant game, everyone was like, fade FAU. They suck. Get them out of the top 25. So
FAU took that personal.
Yeah. And they beat Virginia Tech by 30 today.
Yeah.
I mean, need I say more? So they clearly showed that they belong. And that was just like a fluke. I mean, Michigan State lost to James Madison, who's actually really good this year. Yeah. But still, they took a weird loss. Everyone gets one.
It happens.
Yeah.
It happens. Just like Indiana took a weird loss to UConn, it's just,
totally fluky. It
happens. It happens. But talking about that FAU game, a thing that we've talked about is Butler's rebounding. They had 9 second chance points on 10 rebounds. So
almost half.
Yeah. That's not great. I think they gotta turn that up, especially because FAU had 17 second chance points. So that's something to look at. And I'm still curious. I can't figure out what's going on with Andre Screen and Jalen Thomas. I don't understand it.
It's splitting.
They really are. And a lot of it's, I think, because Jalen Thomas is a much better defender.
Okay.
And Screen is better at just about everything else.
Yeah.
Including rebounding, which is part of Butler's issue. But I think that Thomas might lead in blocks.
Okay.
But it's just interesting that Screen is a better scorer. He's still good on the defensive side, just maybe not as good. So I just don't really understand are they just running a 2 7-footers by committee kind of thing? I think Thomas is just under 7 foot. We're just going to round up.
Or is it we're going to see whose day it is kind of deal?
Yeah, it's weird that the way they're splitting minutes like that.
Yeah.
I don't quite get it. And I'm not questioning Thad Matta because he's a genius.
Right.
But I'm just
he knows something about 7-footers. He's coached.
Yeah.
An All-American or something.
He's had a couple all right ones, but I do think that the FAU game, speaking of Thomas and Screen, would have been a lot different had Thomas not fouled out.
Yeah.
And Screen had 4 fouls. So he was playing with 4 fouls.
In a team like FAU is going to attack and attack and attack.
Yeah. And if you taking a large human out from under the rim, it's gonna make an impact. FAU is going to take advantage of that.
Yeah. Posh Alexander. I think this is the game he had 9 assists, which is very characteristic of Posh. He had 12 and 9 assists, which is insane. I mean, the dude can really dish it out.
Yeah.
But he had a 4-point play. We love to see the 4-point play. It's like 4:40 left, brought it within one, but then FAU answered by going on an 8-1 run. So after that, the game was kind of
that was it.
But watching that game, I was like, this is the best basketball that they've played like all season.
Yeah.
The opponent's really good, and they're playing up to the competition.
And I think that FAU game was a good intro to the ESPN Events Invitational, because then they played Penn State and Boise State. Boise State's not a great team. Penn State's got a lot of questions about them, but getting that loss out of the way, playing really well, I think it really set the tone for their next two games, because Pierre Brooks against Penn State, he was an absolute workhorse.
Career night.
He had a career night. He balled out. The Butler also, they had 15 fast break points. So they were playing fast. They were playing their game, using their four guards to their advantage.
Yeah. And the scoring was, so like the difference in the first game to the second game, one thing that I noticed was like the scoring was really even in the first game. You had Telfort with 19, DJ Davis with 13, Brooks with 13, Posh with 12, Screen with 12. And then in the second game, Posh has foul trouble. He goes out super early in the first half.
Yep.
He barely plays. And so it's like, okay, we don't have our assist man out here. So what's going to happen? Pierre Brooks goes, watch this. And he pops for 26.
I
He's
got
like,
you.
I'll get my own. He's like, I don't need someone to set me up. I'll get my own.
Yeah.
But I mean, they had someone step up. Telfort had 18 in that game against Penn State, and Brooks had had 26. Like, there's your scoring right there.
Yeah,
that's exactly what you need, especially when your point guard, your floor general is not there.
Yeah, absolutely.
So someone's got to step up.
Absolutely.
Go ahead. Okay, so another thing was like they only had 10 fouls. Posh Alexander had 4 of them.
Yeah.
And DJ Davis had 3, and Jalen Thomas had 2. So there are 8 of their fouls right there.
Yep.
That sucks. Or 9 of their fouls, I guess. Right? Yeah. So
yeah,
that's rough. But I don't know. Proud of them, I guess.
Yeah.
I didn't get to watch the Boise State game.
Yeah. I mean, it's no surprise. Brooks led all scorers. Again, he had 25 points.
They need him to do that. You know?
Yeah. He was 4 for 7 from 3, which is impressive. They had 13 points off turnovers against Boise State. So those are some of the big things that, like I've said before, big points off turnover, big fast break guy. Those are our ways that this team's going to win games.
Yeah.
Looking back at this week, FAU game, that loss combined with the Penn State and Boise State game, I was impressed. Pierre Brooks, 64 points
in the week. In the 3 games.
In the 3 games, which is, that's 50 of them came in 2 of them. So didn't have as great of a scoring night against FAU, but that doesn't matter.
Or something.
Yeah, exactly. Jameel Telfort, he had 48 points. So those 2 really stepped up to the plate this week to get points forward for Butler.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, they moved up in our power rankings. They moved up to 6 from 7. If they win that FAU game, we're talking 2nd, 3rd in the state for sure, because I mean, it doesn't when you say they almost beat FAU at face value, that means nothing. But then you're like, no, this is a Final Four Dusty May team that he's got. So not a moral victory that they didn't get blown out or something, but like they almost won that game. I think that's a really big thing for them.
Yeah.
And They should continue that momentum because they've got some good games coming up.
Yeah. So let's talk about our number 3 team in the power rankings, Evansville. 2 big wins. They're 6-0.
2 huge wins.
Yeah. Yep.
So they are 6-0, which beats their win total from last year. They had 5 wins last year. And I saw a lot of people talking about Evansville. It's huge. Being 6-0 after winning only 5 games last year and no one really knowing what to expect from Evansville. Step up to the line, Jaron. When was the last time that Evansville started 6-0?
Probably like the 70s.
You're very close. So the last time that they started 6-0 was 1964-1965 season when they won an undefeated D2 national title.
Okay.
So I think they repeated 94-95 or not 64-65. So 1964 to 1965 was the season that they started 6-0. And I think they went back to back national titles. So this is the first time that they've been in Division I that they've been 6-0.
Huh.
Now we'll talk about them in the games to watch because they're going to have a test. But they weren't supposed to be 6-0. They weren't even supposed to be 5-0.
They were down 20 with 11 minutes to go against Chattanooga.
Yeah. And like I saw, people tweeting like, well, Evansville is going to take their first loss. And Ben Himrickhouse and the team, they said, watch this.
Oh, yeah.
And I want to shout out your boy, dude. I want to shout out your boy, Gage Bobe. He hit 2 threes in the game. And one of them was when they were down like 17, knocked it down to a 14-point game. And I was like, it's coming. Like you could just feel it.
You
just feel it. Yep.
So well, it's interesting. So they're, like I said, they were down with 11 minutes and 40 seconds left in the game. Regulation.
Yeah.
This was an overtime win. I'll preface with that.
A big overtime win.
They were down 20. From every minute after that, every second after that, Evansville outscored Chattanooga 43-15.
That's just insane.
Yeah. And that's so leading up to that, Chattanooga was shooting 53% from the field, 47% from 3. After that, Chattanooga went 4 for 24 from the field and 3 of 18 from deep. That's including overtime. So it was, they said, not today.
What's really interesting about that is this was an MTE. It was the Coca-Cola Zero Sugar Classic, which in and of itself just sounds like a drink. Yeah. Like the Coca-Cola Zero Sugar Classic version, but it was the Coca-Cola Zero Sugar Classic, which Chattanooga was hosting. Yeah. So they play the home team in their home gym the first game, and they get down 20. And what does this Evansville team do? They come right back and they take victory from them. Yeah, it was awesome. It was actually tied for the 8th largest comeback in the Missouri Valley Conference history. That's awesome. Like, yeah, I really love this team. You love it. Ben Himrickhouse. He popped off again. He popped off in both games, actually. As to be expected. He had 28 points against Chattanooga. He only sat for 2 minutes. He made 5 threes, and he was perfect from the line. 1 of 1. Hey. 1 free throw. 100%. 100%. That's what matters. Bobe hit 2 threes, like I said. So he shot 50%. 2 of 4. And Himrickhouse almost won the game in regulation, but his shot didn't go in. But it didn't matter because they still pulled off the win in overtime. Yeah. And Himrickhouse had like 13 of the night of his points in the comeback. Just willed it into existence. Absolutely. He's the guy. And he shot 1 free throw, and he did all this with 1 singular foul. Not a hint of foul trouble on this man. That's what we like to see. That's what we need from a team's leader like that. Yeah. But so they also, as part of the Coca-Cola Zero Sugar Classic, they also played SEMO. Yep. Second time they played SEMO this season. Right. And the I think we can say after this is Evansville is definitively 19 points better than SEMO. They 19-point margin both games. Exactly. That's poetic. It is. They both scored way more in the second game than the first. Yeah. Kenny Strawbridge, guy that we've talked about, guy that I like. He scored 5 of the first 8 for Evansville. Mm-hmm. So homie said he was riding that high from the overtime win and said, all right, Himrickhouse balled out. Time for me to kick it into gear with this game. So it was fun, but Evansville did get outscored the second half. Didn't really matter, obviously. I mean, when you jump out to a huge lead. Yeah, they had a pretty good lead into going into halftime. They were 0 for 5 from 3 in the second half. Didn't need him. Himrickhouse had 27 in this game. Yeah, and he played good. clean basketball with 0 turnovers.
It
Perfect
should
from the
be.
line again. I mean,
It's poetic.
this dude just has he needs to take Hammerkaus off the back and put Chitwood on there because this dude, he's trying to be.
Well, that's a question. Is he going to be our first repeat Jimmy Chitwood of the? He's not Chitwood this week,
Or is he?
but I don't think he is. I don't know.
It's
He made a case for it,
Yeah.
But we'll talk about that a little bit later. But I think that there's a world where Hammerkaus is our first repeat.
This was a
Chitwood winner.
this is a very tough week for Chitwood because everyone was so good.
Everyone showed up.
But I mean, great 6-0. We'll talk about them later when we talk about games to preview. So Next, I'm going to jump into Indiana.
Yes,
Indiana bounced back, took a loss to UConn, bounced back, went 2-0, and won against Louisville in a way that no one saw coming, even Mike Woodson.
What is that? Well, what was that way?
Well, Indiana fans might be scared of a 2-3 zone because of Syracuse in 2016.
Yep.
But a 2-3 zone saved them from a horrific loss against Louisville.
Louisville is turning around. Obviously, they
Kind of.
They had a big win today.
Big win? Okay, let me talk. I want to talk about this win before we get into this.
Big in the sense of morale. It was a win that they needed against a very bad New Mexico State team.
What are they on Ken Palm?
Louisville? 159.
Okay, what about New Mexico State?
251.
Okay, so Louisville almost lost today. New Mexico State's now 3-5, and this is the New Mexico State team that I don't know if you remember this story or not from last year, but they literally shut the basketball program down because there were hazing allegations amongst the basketball program. I don't
actually remember that.
They shut the basketball program down. Obviously, fired their head coach. I didn't check and see how many players stayed. I don't imagine very many because they were being hazed by the other players. Yep. So that whole thing goes down. Obviously, fire their head coach. Jason Hooten comes in. It's his first year there, obviously. And at the end of the game, how many players did New Mexico State have on the floor? I'll tell you, 4, because so many fouled out. So it's not a good
I'm trying to give
in the same way
a little bit of benefit of the doubt.
In the same way that Indiana saved themselves by not losing to Louisville saved themselves by not losing to New Mexico State. And they honestly saved Indiana by not losing to New Mexico State. But Louisville, after their game against Texas looked great.
Yeah.
I mean,
I was worried for Indiana.
Yes, I was if they play this way, it's done for.
Yeah.
And it looked like that for a while until apparently I want to know who this was. Apparently in the huddle during one of their late game timeouts, someone was like, "Coach, why don't we try a zone?" And Woodson was probably like, why not? Why not? Nothing else is working.
Yeah, and I'm curious if it was a player or if it was another coach.
Yeah.
I mean, through the first 25 minutes, when talking about some stats of their switch to, they played 2-3 zone. They played a little bit of a 2-2-1 zone. Makes sense when you've got a guy like Ware.
Yeah, any zone is just weird for them.
Yeah. So they're almost a strictly man. Woodson is a man D team. They barely practice a zone.
Yeah.
In general,
Kenny Payne even said that in the post game. He was like, "I knew Woodson would not run a zone," which again is bad coaching practice to just not even have anything prepared.
Yeah.
Just in case.
So through the first 25 minutes of the game, Louisville was scoring about just under 1 point per possession. Louisville then went on an 18-5 run.
Okay.
I don't exactly know how that 18-5 run impacted their points per possession.
Yeah.
The Indiana then switched to a zone. From that point on, Louisville was scoring 0.36 points per possession.
I think there's something about zones that just breaks people.
Yeah.
because they were playing great team basketball. Louisville was, and then
they didn't know
they threw the zone, and
they couldn't throw a ball in the ocean.
Yeah, it looked like they were just like playing an open gym, and people were just like, I don't know, you shoot it.
Yeah. What do I do?
I mean, hey, a win's a win. So,
I do a couple people. A couple things I want to call out from that game before we talk about the Harvard game. Anthony Walker, Peyton Sparks. Both had to step up.
Huge bench moments.
Malik and Ware both got into some foul trouble. I think both ended the game with 4 fouls each. Ware might have fouled out.
No, I think Malik
fouled out. Yeah, Malik fouled out. But those two, there was a lot of question marks. Kind of, we knew what Sparks brought to the table. We know the experience that Ant brings to the table. But they just hadn't been performing up to that point.
The bench has been like lackluster, to say the least.
Yeah, I think that Ant's playing so much more comfortable. He was the leading scorer through the first 30 minutes of the game.
And they came in off the bench and were just like straight buckets, like just scoring immediately. And you're like, okay, we got something working.
Hayden Sparks still can't hit free throws.
No.
He went 1 for 4.
After his first year at Ball State, he just forgot.
Yeah. So... Those are good. Those are good little kind of observations I had. Malik Ryu did make first team
All Empire
Classic. So called out, played well. Harvard game. Unless you have anything to talk about.
I do. Yes. Trey Galloway. Are we concerned? Because he's been looking off. I don't know if it's like the role he's playing. Trey Galloway went 0 for 4 from 3.
Yep.
1 for 7 from the field, had 2 points against Louisville.
He had 4 points against Harvard.
Yeah. He's struggling.
I touched on it last week. I think there is maybe a little bit of added pressure. He's not playing as freely as he was like last year when he was playing next to Jalen Hood-Schifino, Trace Jackson Davis. It was he could kind of float.
He could get his points
make
where he
plays
wanted
everywhere.
Yeah.
Whereas now,
you think he's worried he's got to be a scorer or something?
I think that there's that added pressure that he has to step up to the plate.
Yeah.
And be the guy on both ends of the court, which is still a good defender.
Right.
But his scoring's kind of dropped, and I'm not worried.
Yeah, I mean, he had 5 assists against Harvard, but and he had 2 assists, 2 rebounds.
I think I do think there's a role change did kind of does play a part.
Yeah,
I have confidence. He's the kind of guy. He's a dog.
Yeah,
right?
He'll get it worked out.
He's a workhorse. He's going to figure it out, and Indiana's going to be so much better for it.
They just need him to come along.
Yeah, it just needs to happen a little bit quicker than it is.
Because, I mean, Xavier Johnson also been struggling. 14 points against Louisville. 3 points in an injury today.
Yeah. Well, he did. So that injury was he had a bad kind of high ankle sprain against UConn. He's been questionable on the injury report. He was questionable for Louisville.
And he's a guy who has to be fully healthy in the lower body to be able to get to his max speed and everything.
Just the way he plays. He did. Yeah, he went out late in the first half against Harvard, and he came out in sweats and a shooting shirt in the second half. Didn't play a minute. Which he also had ice wrapped on his ankle. So was it precautionary?
I don't know.
Maybe not.
I think it's. I don't know. I mean, he's got to be ready.
That I have.
Yeah, you've got Big Ten play on Friday.
A lot of big games. They have a tough week coming up.
What's 2 Big Ten games and then is it right into Kansas?
No, we play Auburn.
Yes,
they play Auburn first. And then Kansas. But there's 2 Big Ten games.
Maryland.
Then they play.
Here's their next 4: Maryland, Michigan, Auburn, Kansas.
Yep,
that's tough.
Yeah. So he's got a week to get healthy, which is good.
But yeah, they got 1 week. Next game on Friday, then they play Tuesday, and then Saturday's Auburn.
Yeah. So, we've talked about them not shooting the 3 ball well. Hasn't been too much of an issue in the sense of they had 50 points in the paint against Harvard.
Yeah.
So they're scoring in the paint. Obviously, when you've got a 7-footer
and a 6'9",
and a 6'9"
guy who can score wherever he wants.
pretty much he throws the ball up and it's going into the hoop kind of thing. They had 20 points off turnovers. So playing fast, doing their thing, which is what they need to do.
Yeah.
Anthony Leal, he played his first game of the season, first non-exhibition game. Stat line didn't really do him any justice, but he was super active and aggressive on the defensive side, which is what they need, what they've been lacking a little bit. He did have an assist and a board. He played 6 minutes. So that was, I think, largely to give Gabe Cupps some rest in the second half.
Yeah, and to let, take some pressure off him.
Yep.
Mackenzie Mbako coming out party.
I mean,
he had 18?
He had 18 on 7 for 13 from the floor. He was 1 of 5 from 3.
Here's my thing, though.
But the 3 he hit was deep.
And the two of his twos were, his toes were on the line.
Yeah.
So if he steps back barely, you're looking at Indiana being 6 of 17 from 3.
Yeah.
Instead of 4 of 15.
That was an issue they had a lot today in general.
People were taking shots right on the line.
Really deep. They're shooting some Jalen Hood-Schifino threes.
Yeah, or some long twos. I think a lot of that was the zone messing with them.
Yeah.
Which I would if I'm Indiana, I would practice against a zone a lot until you can hit shots, because people are going to throw a zone at you.
Yeah.
Especially like Iowa, when they play them. Iowa likes to throw a lot of different defenses out there to hide that they can't guard. And so if they throw a zone at you, you're just toast.
Yeah. So based on this game, though, pivoting, I want to talk about Ware a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
At what point do we stop hearing all the narrative of transfer from Oregon because he was lazy, he had a bad motor? Is that
I think it's dead already. I think it's dead.
They talked about it several times during the broadcast.
I know, but like in a way that like seemed like this dude had motor issues.
Right.
He dropped 28.
He was
rebounds.
12 for 13 from the field.
Yeah.
He had 8 boards, 3 assists, and 3 steals, 2 blocks.
And the one he missed, he immediately got the rebound and put it back up and in.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that narrative's dead. I hope it's dead.
Yeah.
But
I think that he is probably going to lead the team in scoring. I thought at the beginning of the year it might be Renew or Xavier Johnson, but he's just a walking bucket down there. He and Renew. Mbako, I want to point out that while he had 18 points, he had 8 rebounds. He had an assist. He was getting people, in the right spot.
He looks so much better than he did a week ago.
Yes, but not much better on the defensive end.
Yeah.
I think him now seeing that he's getting his offensive flow is
going to help.
Gonna help him get into his defensive.
He's got to have confidence on one side of the court.
Yes. And
I think that before he hadn't had any confidence.
Right. Now he's going to feel good and hopefully guard better.
It was, but this game they didn't shoot well. Again, they were 4 for 15 from 3.
Yeah.
But
that's their high. That tied their season high of 4 threes in a game.
Yeah. Yeah. But I do think the game was a breath of fresh air for them in the last week for a lot of reasons. A lot of it had to do with foul trouble. They only had 13 team fouls, which is much lower than they had.
And Renew only had 1.
Yeah. And Cupps was the only player that had more than 2.
Yeah.
He had 3. So which Cupps get into foul trouble isn't a huge concern on normal basis just because he's not a starter. I think when your starters start getting into foul trouble, that is where the big concern is. But
you shouldn't run into a situation where that's like make or break. Yeah. We've seen a lot of lineups with him out there as like the 3 spot, but
if he picks up a couple fouls, that's okay on normal basis. And I'm not concerned about him having 3. No. I'm just glad the team had the fouls that they did have were very spread out, and no one had several, which was something that I think they need to get into.
Let's talk about them as a whole. So we talked about them kind of at the beginning of the season saying, you're going to go and you're going to play UConn in the Empire Classic. Then you're maybe going to play Louisville or Texas. You almost played Texas because Louisville almost pulled it off. Where you wanted to sit after the Harvard game is 5-1.
Yeah.
That's where they are.
Yeah.
So, I mean, they're right on track. It reminds me a lot of last year when they lose to first Kansas or Arizona Kansas
Kansas.
first, I think.
Kansas, yep.
So they played Kansas and lost, but you look at their record and you're like, okay, you have taken one loss to Kansas, and then later you took one loss to Arizona. You kind of expected that.
Right.
And it's kind of where I'm at with them. Now their next couple of games are big. Yeah. We'll talk about that when we get down to the preview.
Let's talk about Indiana State, though.
Oh, my goodness. I am excited to talk about them.
They went 3-0 this week.
At the Bulldogs Classic.
Oh, the Ball Dogs.
Is it really? Oh, my gosh. The Ball Dogs. I was saying Bulldogs the whole time.
Oh, Ball Dogs Classic. Yep. They played Rice, their first game. So didn't play a lot of big teams, obviously. Like these were all expected wins. But what they showed was incredible. Going into Rice, Mason Miller, he said he heat checked the pod, right? We've been saying all year that Swope's the best shooter. He said, you think Swope's better than me? Bet. Popped off 5 for 7 from deep.
He was looking like he was trying to be Mason Miller, like Mike Miller's son who plays at Creighton. Yeah. Yep. He looked like that.
Yep.
The team can shoot, man.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like the whole team can shoot. Robbie Avila is like a great shooting big.
Broke 2 personal records against Rice.
Which were?
He had his career high from last season was 22 points. He had 27 against Rice. His career high assist record, 4.
Yep.
He had 8 against Rice.
And I texted you and was like, at half, he's on triple double watch because he had like 16, 4, and 5 or something.
I think he was 16, 6, and 6, maybe.
It was something like that. Yeah. It was close where it's like, oh, we need to monitor this. Like if he plays the whole game, it might happen.
So he finished with 8 assists and 8 rebounds.
And 28 points.
27 points.
That's tough. I thought it was 28. Anyway.
Was it? It might have been. Either way.
Over 25.
Yep.
So he was phenomenal for the team. I think having a big who's willing to shoot and able to knock them down just gives you so much more room for your offense.
Not only is he a big man on the court, though, he's also a big mac and cheese fan.
Who isn't?
Found that out. He said that's a make or break dish at Thanksgiving. It's mac and cheese.
You know what? And he said that he was what did he say? He was disappointed that there was no mac and cheese.
Yep.
I actually did not have any mac and cheese on Thanksgiving. I went to 2 Thanksgivings on Thanksgiving. No mac and cheese. Actually went to another Thanksgiving today. No mac and cheese there either.
That's unacceptable. I like to point out that I go to 2 different Thanksgiving meals on Thanksgiving Day.
Yeah.
Mac and cheese is a staple at one of them. The other one, people were very anti mac and cheese for a long time. We didn't have mac and cheese at Thanksgiving for most of my childhood.
Interesting.
Until the last 5, 6, 7 years, I made the precedent of complaining. Why is there no mac and cheese? There's been mac and cheese every year since. I actually had the conversation with my little sister. She asked me about the mac and cheese because she always picks out the mac and cheese recipe now.
Yeah.
And I told her it was good. It was delicious this year. And she tried saying that I was sitting next to my dad. She tried saying that she has me to think that there was mac and cheese at Thanksgiving. I looked at her and said, because she presses for it all the time. I was like, you bring it up. I don't bring it up anymore because I don't have to. I walked so she could run.
Yeah. And
mac and cheese is there every year.
You fought the good fight.
And I don't have to say a thing.
See, mac and cheese is huge for me at Thanksgiving because I can only have sides.
Yep.
I don't eat meat. So if there's no mac and cheese, my plate is mostly green bean casserole.
Yeah.
Mashed potatoes. So it's one of those where you eat and then you're so full and then you get hungry really quickly.
Yep. Because it all just digests. Yep. You know, it's also huge. Swope's 21 points against Pepperdine, 17 of which were in the first half.
Yeah. He's back.
He is back.
21-4. He only made 2 of his 6 threes, but every single starter was in double figures in that game.
Like to see it.
A lot of turnovers, but 16 assists on their 49 field goals. About a third.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, you have a lot of dudes who can create their own shot. You got like Swope and apparently Mason Miller. Knock them down.
Yeah.
So you got a lot of dudes who can just hit it.
Yep.
The Toledo game, they won by 2. But Toledo hit a last second, like a buzzer beater 3.
Yep.
So they were up 5. And the spread was Indiana State minus 4.5. So if you bet on
not
that,
a betting show, but if you bet on that, it's a painful loss.
Sucks. But
I'm
you couldn't even watch it. So
yeah. I want to talk about that Toledo game. You know, you talk about they hit the buzzer beater 3 to cut the deficit to 2.
Yeah.
Toledo right before that sent Jason Kent to the line.
Mm-hmm.
He nailed both of his free throws with 14 seconds left.
Ice cold.
If he didn't hit those, they're going to overtime or they're losing.
Right.
Like it's completely changes the outcome of the game. So good for him.
I know. I mean,
he's what they needed, especially because that came right after I believe it was Bledson and someone else hit threes that kind of iced the game a little bit right before. I might be making that up.
Yeah, it's I mean, Swope had 23 in this.
Yep.
4 steals. He played all 40. Probably would have played all 45 if Kent hadn't hit his free throws.
Speaking of free throw, got one for you. So, like you just said, Swope had 4 steals.
Yes.
How many steals going as of now? How many steals do you think he has on the season?
As of now, after this game?
After that game,
I'm going to say something silly like 4.
16.
That's good.
So he put
I don't know
up
if you're asking me because it's like he just
of his
never,
season steals
never gets them.
Came in that game alone. So
they won the game. So they went 3-0, obviously. And they looked great. I mean, this team offensively is incredible.
Yep.
The one thing that, I mean, it's not really a concern for me, but it's just something to watch is Avila, like he out-rebounded his dude, but he's not getting like a double-double. I think he could easily be a double-double guy. I know he plays out on the perimeter a lot.
Saying averaging a double-double?
Yeah, I think he could definitely be getting a double-double. Okay. Because like he out-rebounded the dude he was guarding, and the dude he was guarding who started the game in Toledo had 0. They played him great. But I just think that with as big as he is, he could be getting some more boards. He got out-rebounded by Jason Kent in that game. Jason Kent had 11 boards. So it's kind of why I like wanted. It's not a concern of mine. I'm not saying he's a bad rebounder. I just think he could get more.
Yeah.
But
I do want to point out this is Schertz's second year at Indiana State. Is that right?
Third? Second or third.
Well,
I'll find it.
This is his second consecutive 5-1 start. Last 2 years, he started the season 5-1. That's
for him.
That's a good way to start a season.
I think that's third season because they were 11-20, and then they big jump up 23-13, and this season looks like they're going to have potentially an even bigger jump.
Yeah. But that was a little nugget that I saw. It's a really good way to start a season every year. Sets the tone for the rest of the season.
Team that had a dub, won their game, but barely. IUPUI, not what I was hoping.
So I said Evansville is definitively 19 points better than SEMO.
Okay.
Right? IUPUI is definitively bad.
Oh no. They just struggle.
Yeah.
So much. So they played Cleary, and I almost didn't believe the stat, but like I knew Cleary wasn't Division I.
Yep.
They went into overtime, right?
Yes. It was an overtime win.
And Cleary had a buzzer beater at the end of regulation that almost went in. So they almost just straight up lost in regulation. But Cleary is an NAIA team. and they are in their first season of having a basketball team. So if you're wondering why they're last in our power rankings, because you almost lost to a team that literally did not play basketball last year. Like you had to recruit people to this team and just be like, we have nothing to show you.
Yeah.
Trying to build something.
Yep.
Tough.
Well, I mean, even Matt Crenshaw said that he didn't think that they deserved to win.
I think he's right.
I don't disagree.
I think he's right. And it sucks because like watching the team last year and then seeing them bring so many pieces back made me want to think that they were going to do better. Mm-hmm. But the early season results just aren't there. DJ Jackson was huge in getting them the win. Matt Crenshaw said that he was huge in down the stretch.
Counter and Jackson, they combined for 40 of the team's 78 points.
Yeah. Counter had 21. Jackson had 19.
Yep.
But if I play IU, I'm running a zone. If I play IUPUI, I'm running a zone because these teams cannot shoot.
Yeah.
And you have Counter who can hit them, but not sometimes, at a good rate.
Yeah.
Like he will take the shots.
Oh, yeah.
He'll take all the shots that you give him.
Yeah.
But, I mean, if Cleary doesn't go 12 of 26 from the free throw line, if they hit one more, you lose.
Yeah.
Because you don't go to overtime.
Yeah. I want to leave it off. I don't have much else to say about IUPUI, and if there's anything else that you want to bring up, but they really needed this win going into league play, and I don't know how much it's going to help them going forward. I mean, obviously they went 0-4 last week. Picking up a win here is good, but it's like we said, it was an overtime win to a team that didn't have a team last year.
It's not a must-win game; it's a cannot-lose game. You know?
Yeah, exactly.
They did that. Another team that won. Again, 1-0. So some of these teams you're seeing like 3 games, some played just one. It all just depends on if they were in an MTE. IUPUI was in an MTE last week.
Yep. So was Notre Dame.
So was Notre Dame. So they had a light week.
A lighter week this week.
They went 1-0 against Maryland Eastern Shore.
Woo. Yeah, it was a big game for Braden Shrewsbury. Obviously, he's moved to the bench now.
Yeah.
Almost the way it looks is permanent. Like he's just going to be that sixth man off the bench, which is, I think it's good.
He had a season high.
He had a season's high. He played 14 minutes.
Yep.
I'd even go to say that it wasn't just a season high. It was a career high.
Oh my gosh. That's wild. How many seasons has he played?
1.
Hey.
But it doesn't matter. But he did go 4 for 6 from 3.
Yeah.
And
you
didn't
said
score
14,
at all.
Said 14 minutes.
14 minutes. Didn't score at all in the second half.
So
Sorry. Yeah.
First,
all of his scoring came in the first half. So didn't score at all in the second half. So not bad. It was, I mean, he probably, I don't know how many minutes I don't know what his minute breakdown was between the first half and the second half, but he at least came off the bench and made an impact.
I mean,
obviously it was a 20-point win, so I didn't play a whole lot.
Yeah.
Even though he is a bench player, he's a little bit higher than on the list of players that might not play in the second half with a blowout win. But
good team basketball. I mean, Marcus Burton had 12, but he had 5 assists and they 18 assists on 28 baskets.
Yep.
That's huge.
Yep. There was a season high 13 3-pointers. So we're getting the ball to fall in. It's actually the first game where they had double-digit threes. So maybe that's a confidence boost they can take into league play this week.
Yeah, they were up by like 28 a couple of times in the second half, and they went scoreless for like 4 minutes. They had a 4-minute scoring drought in the middle of the second half, but this is also when Maryland Eastern Shore went on a 5-minute scoring drought, so it balanced out.
Yeah, it didn't really matter.
Good week for them.
Yep. You know who had an okay week though? EFW. Purdue Fort Wayne. They went 1-1. Picked up a win over Wittenberg.
NAIA school.
An expected loss. San Francisco. San Francisco's not a bad team.
Right. This was a game where I was like seeing the line and I was texting you about it. I was like, the bet line, like the spread is 13.5 for San Francisco to win. It's at San Francisco. It's the Battle of the Dons. And I was like, that number is far too big.
Yeah.
Like that is huge. And it was like really close at half. And
but also both teams were broke as hell.
Yeah. So
neither team could make a basket. They were both shooting less than 30% from the field, including individually less than 30% from three.
Yeah. And I think they were both a little bit off. The game was like super fast. Both teams were just playing fast and just PFW was like picking up full court, but they turned him over a couple of times. Bello couldn't really get going. He was just kind of shut down for most of the game. But they like San Francisco just started heating up in the second half. And then they just kind of ran away with it there. Like it was really close the first half. I was like, I think it was like a 4-point margin or something. And I was like, they're going to do it, but just couldn't keep up. I mean, San Francisco is a really good team. Yeah. And even the broadcasters were like, there's no way that this team is like 8th in the Horizon League. They're like, if the Horizon League, if this is the 8th team or whatever in the Horizon League, like they're a multi-bid league, like hands down.
Yeah.
So, I mean, probably a reality check, not a reality check, because I don't think that they were like too high on themselves, but you know,
Kaufman's not the type of guy that's has that mentality. I don't think, and I think he
and they weren't like
keep that under wraps with the players.
They were supposed to be 8th in the conference.
Yeah,
they're already exceeding expectations. You're going to take an expected loss here.
Yeah,
don't feel bad about it.
Great bounce back win against Wittenberg. Like we said, in AIA
for the team. Bello bounced back.
Yep,
he was 8 of 9 from 2. Older had a huge dunk. It was a good game. I mean, expected.
I mean, they were up 45-35 at half. And they kept that going within the second half. They started the second half with a 25-10 run. And then the first 10 minutes of the second half. So it was good. You know, Bello, he was 8 for 9 from 2. Wasn't missing much from inside the arc. He was 0 for 3 from 3. Finished with 16 points.
Yeah.
Still not 8 for 12 on the day is not a bad number to have.
No.
So
I mean, it's a good game. I mean, again, each game went. I mean, each game basically went how you would expect. Yeah.
The PFW only had 10 turnovers, and in that vein of turnovers, I got another free throw for you. If you're ready to step up to the line,
I am. Pass me the ball.
How many games has PFW had 10 or fewer turnovers this season?
1. This one.
5.
Oh, they haven't.
They're not turning the ball over very much this season, which is what they need to do. But I think that's a good mark of
they're trying to turn their opponents over more than they are. I like that this is their last non-Division 1 team that they're playing this year. That's really big.
Yeah, so, no, it'll be good for them.
Let's jump into the number 1 team on our power rankings.
I don't want to spend too much time talking about them just because I feel like we're saying the same things every week, right? Like he's the guy. They're good. They played some really good teams.
You have the National Player of the Year. So they went 3-0 in the Maui Invitational. They played Gonzaga, who was live or die by the 3.
Yep.
They played Tennessee, who was trying to murder them.
Yeah.
And then you had Marquette, who played broke in the first half and then came alive in the second half, but couldn't cut the deficit.
Yeah.
3 very different teams, but they got 3 wins, and they're looking like a team that can win it all. But
yeah, they're good, right? I do have some concerns about them, and I think I've said it before. One, after that Tennessee game, I want to know what a foul is, because it was absurd. I think there was a combined like 60 some foul.
There were so many free throws.
A gross over exaggeration. They were like,
I don't think it is.
They were like,
I'm gonna find it for you. Keep talking.
It didn't make sense at the end. Like they're calling fouls left and right. So many players were in foul trouble on both sides of the court.
Part of Tennessee's game plan is like to foul, like they build fouls into their defense, but it was just like the officiating was so different in all these games. It was crazy.
Yeah. I think
51 fouls. 30 for Tennessee. They had 2 players foul out, and 21 for Purdue. Zach Edey had 4.
Yeah.
Drake Offman had 4.
Yeah, it was. But that this past week, Purdue shot 32.6% from 3, which, if you think about it, like, that's not bad. If you're shooting over 30%, I'd say that's
that's what you want to do. You want to be 30.
Because elite shooters are in the 40s, right?
Yeah.
Well, they shot 23.5% against Gonzaga, 26.7 against Tennessee, 47.6 against Marquette. So that really increased their average. But they've got to be able to hit shots, and I think that's going to be something. And I've said it several times. That's what I'm kind of looking out for the most with them, because Colvin had a heat check. I don't think he had a 3 in any of those games. He might have had one against Gonzaga, but
and he went like 3 of 3 the game before the Gonzaga game.
Yeah, so I'm interested to see how they don't need to when they've got a guy like Edey in the paint.
Yeah,
but teams, especially in the Big Ten, are just going to bully Edey.
Yeah.
And those players have to hit shots.
If you get Edey and it gives him room to work.
Yep.
It just makes your team so much better. Yeah. Especially if you have Lance Jones like playing well.
Yep.
He really is the missing piece for this team that they did not have last year.
Yeah.
So he's got to, like, if you have him and then you have literally anyone able to shoot, like Braden Smith hit like 4 in the game against Marquette, 4 or 5,
something like that.
And like, if you've got people hitting shots and taking some pressure off Edey, keeping people honest on defense, then they're going to be great. This is not a free throw, but did you see that Edey was talking to Jay Billis in 94 feet? And he said that one of the things that he requested specifically
was an 8-foot bed.
What do you think? What do you think you call an 8-foot bed? A Canadian king bed? It's gotta be, right? Like, that's a Canadian king bed's an 8-foot bed because of Zach Edey.
I'm all for it.
It is now.
It is now.
This show.
Real quick, so I do have a free throw for you.
Okay.
This one I think will be pretty easy.
Okay.
So Edey, obviously, unanimous National Player of the Year last year.
Yeah.
He's the clear front runner this year in terms of KenPom. Right. So he's got a 2.65 rating. Who do you think is currently second in the National Player of the Year rankings, according to KenPom?
Well, I haven't heard a lot about Baycott. Tyler Kolick's probably up there, but Hunter Dickinson. Oh, is it Hunter Dickinson?
It is Hunter Dickinson. He's got a 1.76 rating. So a full point.
Yeah.
Edey is a full point ahead.
I'm really sad we missed that matchup.
Yeah.
Between those two.
It would have been a fun game to watch. And I'll go going through the list. And Kolick actually isn't even on
really
KenPom's list. They've got Dickinson at 2, Jaden Ledee, San Diego State at 3, Kyle Filipowski, Wade Taylor from A&M, Tristan Newton from UConn.
Yeah.
Dylan Jones from Weber State.
Okay.
Kevin McCullough from Kansas. Not surprised to have 2 Kansas guys up there.
Right.
EJ Hall from Clemson, and Armando is 10th.
Nice.
But it's crazy because Edey's 2.6 rating.
Yeah.
Then you've got a 0.5 difference between 2 and 10.
Yeah, that's crazy.
How it's crazy how close everyone is under him.
He's the far and away. I mean, he averaged, like 25 points in this thing and like almost 20 rebounds.
Yeah.
Marquette, I think, just real quick, because everyone probably watched Purdue's games. Like, everyone was watching Maui.
Yeah.
But I think Marquette or Purdue could win the national championship.
I agree.
For sure.
I think they both have the pieces that they need for that.
I think that this game is very different if Iguodaro does not go out with foul troubles, because when they started the game, they were just absolutely killing Purdue. Mm-hmm. And then he went out, he was moving all around. They were getting everything they wanted. And then he goes out, and then Purdue goes on that run.
Yep.
And the other thing that maybe did it was the cursed left basket. But
I don't want to talk too much about that.
We'll talk about that later. Let's talk about Southern Indiana.
Yep. They went 0-2 this week.
Yes.
Lost to Bucknell and to Duke. I don't understand this team. They're not good. I think that we've seen that. They were 30-point dogs to Duke, only lost by 18, They took a lead into half. They were leading.
They were up by 10 at one point in the first half.
They were up by 10 at numerous occasions in the first half, 10 or more. Like they took a 4-point lead into half.
Everyone was talking about it on Twitter. It made me so happy to see. And
I couldn't catch the second half just because I was at dinner with family. But Duke outscored them 49-27.
Duke just played like Duke.
Yeah, Duke became Duke.
They both played how you expected the full game to go.
Yeah,
it was basically how the second half went. But I mean, it was just really nice that people were like Southern Indiana, like seeing them in my mentions, in my mentions and on Twitter was really nice.
Well, they played tough against Michigan State as well.
Yes,
but it's their thing is they can't play a full 40 minutes.
Right,
they play a great first half. It was the same against Bucknell. They played great in the first half, and then they're just done.
Yeah,
they did outshoot Duke from 3 throughout the game. They were 9 of 21. USI was.
Mm-hmm.
Duke was 5 of 18. So
Duke
just couldn't.
I don't know, dude. Duke was on Thanksgiving break, and they were like, we just got this game, and then they started at halftime. Shire figured it out. Maybe Coach K walked in and was like, "Don't ruin my Thanksgiving, for the love of God." Yeah,
but it's even against Bucknell. USI shot 7 for 15 from 3 in the first half.
Mm-hmm.
So impressive numbers, just under 50%, or 1 of 13 from 3 in the second half.
Yeah,
it's another example.
They had 57 shots, 28 of them were threes, and they only hit 8.
Mm-hmm.
And you look like the first half, you're like, oh my God,
these games were just a tale of two halves.
So they need to string something together. A bad game in the first game, Jeremiah Hernandez, 2 for 12 and 0 for 7 from 3, but he played a lot better against Duke. He had 15 points, and AJ Smith had 11.
Is that the Jimmy Chitwood curse? What did Hummerkaus do his first game after?
I don't know, but he's balling out.
I guess it doesn't. It's
small sample size.
Too small of a sample size. Yeah.
But let's move on. Oh, before we move on, actually, is Stan Gerard said that if they play this way, that they played against Duke, against other people, they're going to win some games. And I agree.
Yeah,
I agree. Just need to do that.
Yeah, they need to play a full 50 minutes, full 40 minutes.
Yeah,
and if they play games, if they end games the way they start them, they're gonna win a lot of games this year.
Yeah, I don't see them going this long. Expected, but Ken Palm they haven't won a Division I game yet.
Yep.
But Ken Palm says their first Division I game they're expected to win is Tennessee Tech in January, but I don't think it's going to be that long for them.
No, I would agree. I think they're gonna get something.
Last team, rounded out Valpo 2-0.
2-0.
The win over the Leathernecks, Western Illinois.
Yep.
And a win over the Southerners. This one I don't know. I do not know their mascot. So I was hoping
Southern
you
University.
would know.
Nope. I do not believe that I know.
All right. So didn't get the first one, but can you get this free throw? Where is Southern?
I want to say it's somewhere in Iowa.
Southern in Iowa. That'd be hilarious. It's in Baton Rouge.
Okay.
So
I thought there'd be a little bit of irony behind it by it not being in a typically southern state. That's good to know. Good to know. Western Illinois, Ajaboy had a record night. He had a career high 21 points, 8 for 10 of shooting. He was the 10th player in the last decade to shoot at an 80% clip or better, a minimum of 10 attempts.
Good for him.
So here's a free throw for you.
All right.
When was the last time a Valpo player shot 80+%, minimum 10 attempts at the arc, so at home, against a D1 opponent?
10th player in the last decade. Maybe they happened away.
Just give me a year. It's all
2017.
2014.
Dang.
March 4th, Alec Peters did it. Valpo did get out rebounded though. It's Western. Do you want to call that out? They got out rebounded
a lot.
13.
Okay.
So
They shot better.
Apparently rebounds don't matter in the test.
They shot better though.
Yeah.
7 of 16.
Yeah. Yeah.
Western Illinois is like pressing them at the end. They didn't get sped up. Western Illinois didn't. They just used the whole shot clock, and there was just like, okay, we're just going to keep going. So, I mean, the team looked good all in all. I think Cooper Schwieger was the grit award. He gives like a grit award every week, and I think he won it. But he then played really well the next game against Southern.
He and Stafford both had 17 points.
Yep, yeah. Career high for Schwieger. And he was 6 of 9.
Stafford also had a career high boards. He had 9 boards. His previous career high was 7 against Western Illinois.
Wow. Right before.
Career week for him.
What's interesting is Schwieger and Stafford both have 17, right?
Yep.
But Schwieger went 6 of 9 for 17.
Nice.
And Stafford was 4 of 13.
Okay.
He had a lot more free throws.
Yeah.
But it's interesting that they came out with the same point total with very different attempts. Southern didn't even score for the first 5 minutes almost. They scored their first bucket was at 15:05. But Valpo like let the lead dwindled down to like 1, and then Schwieger hit a 3 shortly after that, so they were up, and they went 7 of 8 from the line in the last minute. So I mean, that's how you get it done.
Yeah,
you just got to hit your free throws and you'll win games.
Ice the game. But before we move on to Jimmy Chitwood Player of the Week, last little thing nugget about Valpo is they're 4-2 currently.
Yep.
Right. It's their best record for the first 6 games since the 2019-20 season.
The 1920s.
That season, they played in the Missouri Valley Conference game, or Missouri Valley Conference title game. So, just throwing that out there. Just, mull on that. Something I'm going to kind of reference throughout the rest of the season, but that's an interesting little stat.
I don't remember what game it was. I think it was the Evansville game. People were talking about like the Missouri Valley is going to be like, just who knows who's going to finish on top. You've got Evansville, who's playing really well. You've got Indiana State. I think Bradley's in there playing really well. And it's like, who's going to finish on top? And they literally said like, who's going to win the Missouri Valley except for Valpo? I was like, come on, dog.
I mean, you've got. So looking at so Evansville 6-0, Bradley 6-0, Drake, Indiana State, Missouri State, all 5-1. Valpo was projected to finish last with 2. Mm-hmm. So
talking about like 4 top 100 teams with Missouri State and Illinois, Chicago, UIC, and Southern Illinois all being top 125.
Yep,
like that's tough.
Yeah,
and then Valpo's down at 316 in Ken Palm.
Yeah.
But, hey man, shock them.
Yeah. So Jimmy Chitwood, we've got Ben Hummerkaus
trying to win it again.
First one. Tried to win it again. Jeremiah Hernandez was last week.
Southern Indiana.
And
now, who's our Jimmy Chitwood Player of the Week? Jimmy Chitwood Player of the Week was really tough because you had Zach Edey popping off. You had Ben Hummerkaus popping off. You had Kalel Ware popping off. So it was like, who do you pick here? Well, I had to pick for our Jimmy Chitwood Player of the Week is Robbie Avila from Indiana State University. He's the guy that I texted you about saying, hey, we got to watch this. He's on triple double watch. Yep. He had 16, 5, and 4 at half. And so while he was doing that, he didn't get the triple double, but I was like, it's going to happen.
Yeah.
So just for that alone, I was watching him. Pepperdine, 18, 8, and 3 with 9 of 12 from the line, and he only had 4 buckets. And then Toledo, 11, 7, and 3, and 3 steals. So just a great effort by him this week in his MTE. So he had to be our Jimmy Chitwood Player of the Week. And I'm sorry he didn't get that mac and cheese.
Maybe we should ship him some mac and cheese. Find out his address.
Can you imagine?
And send him a courtesy of State of Basketball.
courtesy of.
But all right,
here you go. Here's your mac and cheese, and it's like we just boxed mac and cheese.
Yeah. No, I mean, we'll send him like a frozen mac and cheese, Stouffer's frozen mac and cheese dinner.
Aldi brand.
We send him. Doesn't matter. We'll just send him some mac and cheese.
All right. I'll leave that to you.
Okay.
Robbie, Jaren's on it. All right. So Jaren, we got some games that we need to watch this week.
Yep.
What do we need to look out for? What's one you're watching?
Well, first off, a lot of conference play starts this.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think every team is playing a conference opponent, but those are going to be some exciting games to watch because that's really the heat of, what these teams can. It's a good baseline of what these teams are going to be able to do this season because they're going to be playing more, even level opponents.
Yeah, and there's more at stake because
absolutely.
I mean, Missouri Valley maybe gets 2 teams in, but I mean, a lot of these schools are one bid leagues.
Yeah. So
it's definitely more at stake there.
I think that Ball State, they're going to Little Rock. They are 2-point dogs. It's an away game. Can they bounce back from their last away game where they were favored, I believe, by 3 points and tip the scale in their favor against Little Rock? I'm excited to watch that on Tuesday. It'll be a fun game to watch, I think.
Evansville plays Missouri State. Missouri State's favored by 9. Evansville's looking to go 7-0 at that point. That's going to be a really tough one.
Yeah.
They're playing at Missouri State. So if you're looking to see is what Evansville's going to do, I mean, they already exceeded expectations by beating Chattanooga. So I wouldn't doubt them. I think that number is a little big, 9, but we'll see what they can do. Indiana, I think, is got a tough one against Maryland, although Maryland has kind of stunk. They'll figure it out probably, and I think Indiana needs to be healthy to win that one. It's probably going to be a full 40 minutes, but their bigs should help them prevail.
Yeah,
and it's at home, which is good for them.
I'm really interested at the Purdue Northwestern.
Maui hangover.
Well, Purdue's only 9-point favorites against Northwestern. Northwestern's not a bad team, but they're not a good team.
They're not as good as last year
in most aspects. So I'm curious of, why is that? I would expect it to be, maybe 12, 15 point.
I think it's part of it's spread, they're in Evanston.
Yeah. Which
and
never an easy place to play. And really, any home game in the Big Ten is not an easy game to win.
Right. And I think Boo Buie is just so tough. He's just tough.
He's the better guard out of between.
For sure. And so he should get his.
Yep.
Evansville again, favored to not favored. They're dogs to Northern Iowa, and Indiana State playing Bradley at Bradley. I think Indiana State can and should win that game, but it is going to be a fight. You're basically playing for number 1 in the conference at that point because Bradley's 75th in KenPom,
and they're expected to win the conference.
Yeah.
So
you're playing for. I mean, if you want to win the conference, Indiana State, you got to win that game to start it off.
Yep. Last one, we've got Southern Indiana playing at home against Bowling Green State University.
Yep.
5-point dogs at home. Tough look, but it'll be fun to watch how that kind of plays out. It's interesting because they're only 5-point dogs. Bowling Green State is 201 according to KenPom.
What's Southern Indiana? 333.
333. So 132 teams between the two, and it's only a 5-point difference. So that's
interesting.
That's interesting.
Especially because it is
a home game.
It's a home game.
So that might impact it a little bit, but I'm excited to see how that game.
Maybe they pull it off.
Yeah.
Let's hope.
Yeah.
I'm looking again. I don't think it's going to be, what is it? January when KenPom says they're going to get their first Division 1 win. I don't.
Yeah.
Maybe it'll be a home against Bowling Green.
Yeah. It's a home upset. We would. Again, Southern Indiana has to play 40 minutes. They can't. It's great they're putting it all out on the line in the first half.
Like getting tired.
But maybe tone it back a little bit. And you know what? Maybe get blown out in the first half.
There you go. Your second half team.
Yeah, be a second half team.
Let the other team get comfortable and jump on them.
Exactly. So let's talk about 49 other states.
Okay. Let's leave Indiana and let's go all the way down to Hawaii, because there was
Honolulu, to be specific.
There was something going on. Yeah, the Maui Invitational in Honolulu, which was great.
Yep.
There was something going on, dude. I don't know what it was. And I can't, after the first day, it was on people's radar. If you didn't watch Maui, you like the way that the camera was, I don't know, west side, east side, no, wherever the basket was, the left basket on on the screen, people could not shoot.
Yeah.
To save their lives. Like they were broke.
Yeah.
And
2018 had Left Shark.
Yeah.
Katy Perry halftime show. And
2023
Maui was left rim.
It was terrible. And Purdue in their game against Marquette went like, they went from 8 of 15. No, 10 of 21. And I think they hit 8 or 9 of them in the first half, including, Lance Jones' 3/4 court heave that went in.
Yeah.
They hit 8 or 9 on the right rim in the first half, and they hit 1 or 2 in the second half.
Yeah.
So, like, I don't know if Matt Painter went into that game plan thinking, like, get all your threes in now.
Yeah.
Make them all now.
You think so? We obviously watched it and picked up on that difference across all of the Maui games.
They had to have.
You think?
They had to have. And someone had, like, no one asked that question to the coaches. Like, did you notice this? Because it wasn't just one team.
No.
It was.
And it was every game.
Yes.
The team
that whichever team was shooting on the left basket could not make anything, because Marquette, like, I think made 1 or 2 made like 1 3 in the first half, and they ended up hitting 5.
Yeah.
But they shot most of them in the first half, and they come out in the second half and they immediately hit a 3. And it's like, wonder what the issue is. So I don't know if they like were banging on that rim with a hammer beforehand, or they like forgot to replace it, and they just like, maybe no one will notice, but something was going on.
We noticed.
It was terrible.
It's so Villanova
won the battle for Atlantis.
Yep.
Again.
They are 9-0 all time. They've never lost a game.
Undefeated. Never lost a game in Atlantis. So I don't know when the last time was. It might have been the last time. I think the last time they won was maybe when they won one of their national championships in 2016 or 2018.
Maybe that
that tracks.
Yeah, that would make sense. There was an upset, a little bit of an upset, not huge this week. Obviously, Maui, everything kind of panned out the way you'd expect it based on everyone's kind of seedings and rankings.
It could be Marquette, it could be Purdue, it could be Kansas, it could be Tennessee.
But Ohio State upset Bama. Not a huge upset because they're both top 25 teams, but Alabama's a top 10 team, and Ohio State's barely in the top 25.
And Alabama, again, is one of those teams that if they're hitting, they're going to win. If they can beat anybody, they can lose to anybody.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. They did bounce back the next day and beat Oregon.
Yeah.
So, which is obviously a worse team than Ohio State, but taking an 11-point loss to Ohio State is not great. Neutral site game. So,
it's early.
Yeah. But
they lost a lot of people, but it is the number 1 overall seed from last year. So I guess it's notable, but NATO's he'll be fine.
The big upset though, Creighton got beat by Colorado State by 21.
Say they got rammed. The Blue Jays got rammed.
Yeah,
that one is weird to me. I thought that Creighton or I thought Creighton was probably like 2 or 3 in the Big East, behind Marquette and maybe UConn up in there. Those are the big 3.
Yeah.
So that's really weird.
Shocking, but it happens. All happens. All about how it bounces.
If you want to make one of those crazy extrapolations that people like doing, where they compare Purdue to Virginia, because they lost to a 16 seed. So that's just what everyone's doing.
Yep.
when Virginia lost, they came back the next year and they won, I think, the battle for Atlantis. So they won their MTE. Purdue won Maui. Is it going to be?
But Purdue also won their MTE last year.
Yeah.
You see how that happened.
But I mean, the Purdue Virginia parallels still exist. I don't buy into any of them.
No.
But just for those keeping track at home.
Yeah.
If you're a fan of that, still going on.
Yeah.
I think the odds are way more likely that it doesn't continue happening, but we'll see.
The last thing I have for our 49 states check-in question for you. Hypothetical question.
Okay,
was Michigan State the most overrated team going into this season?
Let me flip it on you. Or are they the most underrated 3-3 team in the country? Listen, they figured out their shooting, I think, but Tom Izzo figures it out. And I think Tom Izzo is better when he has a team that has to
there has to be adversity there. Yeah.
He can't have a team. If his team is 14-0, he's going to be like, guess what? We're going to lose this game in Nebraska.
Yeah.
He's going to do something. He has to have his team have adversity so that they're ready for the tournament.
Yep.
So keep an eye on that if you like the Big Ten or if you like Michigan State. But I think they're probably not a national title contender right now, but I think that they could get back to being that point.
Yep.
They got to play those freshmen.
Yeah.
Final words. Something big happened. One thing I want to talk about is Tom Allen out at IU after 7 seasons. Had a $20 million buyout. So a little worried about that when, everyone's like, the right thing to do is to fire Tom Allen.
Yeah.
The right thing to do for the program is to fire Tom Allen. But Scott Dolson gave him a $20 million buyout.
Allen did donate $5 million of that back and negotiate it down to
a university guy,
a $15 million, 15 and some change, $1 million buyout.
So better,
so a little bit better, but still, and I want to point out that we're talking about this, not basketball, obviously, still big news in the state. I've got some sources have been telling me I received
sources are saying
came through while we were recording this. A guy rumored for the job, John Gruden.
No way.
A wild card candidate that has support of some of the key IU folks is John Gruden. Those are my sources are media folks. So
people in the media are definitely saying it. Is what you're saying?
People in the media are saying that John Gruden is a wild card option.
Huh.
Along with, there's a couple other names that I'm not going to get into, but
yeah, I don't really want to get into that on the show. I mean, that's not what we're here for.
That's a little nugget that I received that came across the ticker.
There was
while we've been recording.
This is the fourth. It was the 20 million was the fourth or the fifth highest college football buyout ever.
I think third highest.
So I don't know where the 15. I guess I don't know if it still counts as a $20 million buyout on paper or whatever because they negotiated it, but. I love Tom Allen as a guy. I think he's a great coach for the players. It's just you got to win games, and he wasn't winning games. I think it was the right thing to do.
It's a business, and
it sucks because you like the guy. It always sucks. Like if he was a douche, it'd be way less hard to say goodbye.
Yeah.
But that means that doesn't mean this. But we have Michigan and Iowa because Michigan's won the last 3 against Ohio State.
Yep.
Michigan and Iowa playing for the Big Ten title is gonna be a game, I guess.
Iowa might score 6 points.
I think you could have just stopped by just saying Iowa might score because they might. I'm not certain that they will.
Yeah.
But that actually makes me think the IU job is probably more desirable now that there are going to be no divisions.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Just looking at who they'll have to play, So should be able to get someone.
We do. So we talk about in-state matchups.
Yes.
For basketball.
None this week.
You
thought.
Gotcha.
Where's our in-state matchup this week, Jaron?
South Bend. We've got Indiana University playing Notre Dame in the Elite 8 of the NCAA men's soccer tournament.
Oh, they already tied. They played each other once this season and they tied. Winner goes to the Final Four. IU's still looking for number 9.
Yep.
We'll see.
The second most winningest college collegiate soccer program.
And the Yeagleys just have created a dynasty. Todd Yeagley got his 200th win against Virginia. 200th win total. He got it against Virginia. Yep. So that's huge.
Yeah.
That team is just crazy. That's really all I have.
Yeah.
Anything else?
Nothing for me other than, make sure to follow us on YouTube, like us, like the page, like the episodes.
Yep. Subscribe.
Hit the subscribe button.
Hit the bell.
Hit the bell
so you get notifications when we post a new video or a new podcast.
Yeah. We have episodes obviously every Monday morning, as well as a handful of shorts that go out every week with kind of just little clips from the episodes. So if you want to always view those, make sure you hit the bell and get notifications turned on for the show.
Yep. Follow us on Spotify. Give us a 5-star review if you enjoy the show.
Only if you enjoy the show.
Yeah, please.
Yeah. All right. Well, the clock is showing quadruple zeros. It's time for us to get out of here. Thanks for checking in with the State of Basketball podcast. And remember, for United States,
just basketball.